We're talking to Jane Lesko today, who is a very proficient researcher in her own right, and she got upset when somebody came to her door and said, I need the GPS of your door. Now, before anybody asked the question, maybe we should have identified what GPS means. Global Positioning System. That means we can look down from the sky and tell where your front door is by the coordinates. We can put in those coordinates, and it'll bring up on our computer your front door. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, why would they want that? Well, we'll talk about that in just a second. But we identified the three corporations that are working with this, the Michael Baker Corporation, Harris Corporation, and Law Enforcement Associates Corporation. Now, let's go on past this, and we've got a whole bunch of callers that called in anyway, so we'll get to those in just a second. But where do we go from here on this, Jane?
Well, I was going to tell you another little situation. I have a friend that has a P.O. box. She does not have, she lives further up in the mountains here, and they do not have a place to mail, any mail sent to their home. They don't even have a box anywhere on their street. And they have to GPS their house, too.
Oh, so it's not really for what we say it's for what we want it to be for.
Right.
Okay. All right, so now all of this, we take all this information together, the military and law enforcement are behind it, the Census Bureau is lying to you, it's not part of the 2010 census. Now, what does all of this mean?
Well, we've talked to different ones that were in the military, and they're concerned that the military would be the only one that would really need this information.
Okay, so this is a military maneuver when you start talking in terms of coordinates, as they said. This seems to be something to do with the military. Has anybody speculated what it might be for?
Roundup.
Really?
Yes.
That's what the military is telling you?
No. That's what those that are in the military, yes, that they believe that could possibly be. I'm not going to say any names on the radio, but
sure.
Yeah, they're concerned about that, and the possibility, when they hear this, the possibility of something being shot to your door, like these lasers from the satellite that they can do now.
From the remote controlled, from the drones, there's all kinds of things that could be done.
I hate to be so conspiratorial about this, but I'm sitting here listening to this whole thing, and we all know that the technology that the military has and the government has is decades beyond what we have available here. We know that they already have satellites that can zoom in and read the headline on your newspaper, or even the brand of cigarette that you might happen to smoke that is sitting on the patio table right next to you while you're sunning yourself on your deck. If they have that type of technology, if they have Star Wars capability and lasers from space, and we know that they've got that, if they have your GPS coordinate of your front door, and they can watch you, and they don't like you, and they want to take you out, as soon as you open their door, they say, hey, he's coming out of the house. Okay, hit the button. Bango. You're fried. You're
either
toast.
that, you're blind, you're fried.
Yeah. I mean, this is insane.
This is what can be done with this. So this could be the issue that pushes us over the top with the momentum that we need to say, hey, America, this is wrong. All right, before we go to the callers, what else do we need to know about this, and what else do you think is important here to mention before we go to the callers?
First of all, the census is going to be sent out next year. It's going to be mailed. And if people don't respond, then they'll send a letter telling them to respond. And if not, then they come to your door. Well, most of America will probably answer the census.
That's right.
Because it's required by law. Another thing is the census takers are sworn to a lifetime secrecy and cannot give any census information out to other federal officers or federal offices like CIA, FBI, or even immigration. So if they were to come up to a barn full of illegals, they could not report that to the U.S. Census Bureau, to the immigration, but yet the Census Bureau can make a contract with a private corporation.
Oh, man, this is ugly. This is really ugly. Okay, what other implications can we draw from this before we go to the callers?
I think we've pretty much said it. I think that people are concerned that their violation of their privacy. They've come on their property. They have not, and most of the census takers, the ones that are doing this, they're not even really census takers. The census workers, they're just innocent. I mean, they're canvassing. They're looking for addresses to make sure that everybody's counted. That's what they're told. And I believe that's what they believe. And this lady that came to my door, she says, I don't agree with what I'm doing, but I need the job.
Now, why did she say, what part of it does she not agree with?
Because she said we already have a GPS address.
Okay, so she understands the fraud behind this GPS.
Right.
Okay,
well,
now,
I don't know if she calls it fraud, but she just says, I don't know why I would even have to do this.
Okay, now Marie Gunther, our producer, the next day after she talked with you, had a census taker come to her door. And she was a little bit suspect, so she thought, well, I'm going to see if they go down the street. Yeah, they were doing the whole entire street. They were canvassing her whole area. But the interesting part is that she said to them, what are you doing? They said, we're doing a GPS of your door. And she said, why? And she said, well, we're told that that's to prove that we have been here. And then next year that it's to save money, and they'll send out your survey. She said if they wanted to save money, you could have brought the survey today. So that's not really saving money. So we know that that's kind of a sham thing too. Okay, let me start going to the phone calls. They're lining up here. They all want to talk to you and have their say on this. Let's find out what Mike from Tennessee has to say. Mike, you're on the air with Jane Lesko. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. Not only are they coming to your house, literally they'll set up the street and they'll shoot coordinates off your door, and they're doing it under the guise of establishing 911 directory ability to determine where your address is for mail. But they're also GPSing all of the utility lines, the underground gas lines. They came through my rural part of the community about a month ago, and they were literally locating every 50 feet. They were establishing a coordinate for underground utilities. But something else that you might want to be aware of, in Millington, Tennessee, where I'm at right now, where they've got the old Navy base, is now the Bureau of Personnel, where they don't have housing because it's mostly 99% civil servants that live in the area. They're building houses. They're building lots and lots of houses. The only reason you would need houses on a installation like this is if you're planning on bringing people to live in those houses.
Right.
In other words, if you've got a big walled-off, fenced-in area and you've got houses, they're there for people, and it would be people to run your operation that otherwise wouldn't be living out off the base.
And who may not be civilians, who may be military.
They'll be civilians. They'll be bringing in the contingent of people that are living out in the community if they want to shut down. See, when you've got
Oh, I see.
Yes, when you've got a situation where you know the population density at any one time because of the census like this, you can go release. Well, you can target areas if you want to release threats, bioweapons, anything that you have that is, only able to react to a certain area. You can target population density based on that if you want to force people to move from an area. For systematic roundup, as you call it. Of course, in Millington, we do have a FEMA camp here. It's the old federal prison base, and of course, it doesn't say that on the sign, but when you drive up to the front door and you see the armed guards come out with the little FEMA pouches, then you know what's going on.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'll tell you what. I think you need to contact Glenn Beck at glennbeck.com at cnn.com and inform him of this because, you're all wet, according to him. Hey, Mike, thank you very much for this information. So you say Millington, Tennessee has a FEMA camp there.
Yeah, it's a government document. If you go to mikeparsons.org, click on my... I do a spinoff of your program and Alex Jones' program on the weekend here because most people at work, they don't have time to listen to your program and they don't know about you guys. So I do a local program where I push your show, but I also talk about the issues. I do a recap every week. But, yeah, if you go to my website, click on the picture of the Constitution under my photograph, and follow it down on the links page. It says, is there a FEMA camp in Millington, Tennessee? ? There's the link. Pull up the document. It's a government document, and boom, there it is. Hey,
thank you very much, Mike, for the phone call. MikeParsons.com. Thank you very much. And Saturday he has a radio show there. And how do people listen to it, Mike?
It's local 1380 WLRM, the local affiliate that carries all the GCN programs on Saturdays from 3 to 6. It's called The Voice of Truth with Mike Parsons.
Thank you very much for the phone call. Thank you, WLRN. We salute you there.